Welcome, 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 and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Karina Dunn, and you all already know all the things about me. You know that I am a yoga instructor. You know that I am a Reiki healer. You know that I am a meditation instructor, and you know that that is how I turned, turning away from my career in tech because I needed that release. But today I'm going to be speaking with someone on the other side of the world. And I am super excited to speak with her today. And we're going to have a conversation about limiting beliefs and how they hinder you from being your best self and achieving all the things that you want to achieve. But one thing we do here, Vanya, on the Melanin Wellness Podcast is before we start, we always give 30 seconds of gratitude here. And since you're my guest, I'll be more than happy to let you start if you would like.
Okay, thank you for having me on.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're so welcome. Go ahead.
All right. What am I grateful for?
Yes.
So much. I think grateful to be in this moment right now, and I don't just mean in a podcast, but of course, very grateful to be in a podcast, but just to be in this moment. We've just gone through the pandemic, or majority of us are on the other side, and it feels so sweet to taste that freedom again,
Yes.
and to feel like, wow, we've made it through that, when at the beginning so many of us were unsure where it was going,
Yeah.
what was going to happen. There was so much fear, and we don't have to feel that anymore when it comes to the pandemic. And just
Yes.
to get rid of that, so grateful.
Understood. I could definitely understand that feeling. I too am very grateful I'm grateful for my family and I making it to the other side because there are so many who did not make it together as a family. And there's so many people who lost loved ones and are feeling the pain on the other side. And my heart goes out to them. But I am so grateful that my family and I have made it to the other side. I am so grateful for just opening my eyes every single day and getting the chance to do something good every single time I open my eyes. I'm grateful for the whole healthy foods that my family and I have access to. I am grateful for this moment here in this podcast, being able to connect and collaborate with other like minded people so that we can get this message out and help other people with things that they may not otherwise know how to approach. And so I'm just so grateful for my platform and being able to reach others that are not necessarily close to me. Now, you guys know what I say here on the Melanin Wellness Podcast. That was probably more than 30 seconds, but it's okay because when giving thanks, you can never be grateful enough and you can never take up enough time to do that, because when you're operating from a space of gratitude, it is impossible to operate in negativity in that same moment. The two simply cannot coexist. And now let's get into the juicy part of the show. So today I have the honor of talking with Miss Vanja Beric. She is all the way across the pond in Austria, Australia, excuse me.
Australia.
She's a registered counselor and she works with others to help build their self-belief, right? And I believe we've talked about it here on the podcast before about how powerful limiting beliefs can be, right? And how they can completely hinder us. So I know a lot about you from your bio, but my audience does not. So please tell my audience more about you. Where are you from? A little bit about your background.
Wow, thank you. So I am originally, as you said, I live in Australia at the moment, but to add a little bit to this accent, I'm originally from Yugoslavia. So I have the mix of European, Eastern European, and I guess Aussie accent. And I was 5 when a war started in my country, and for about 5 years, it went on for about 5 years. And when I was 11, when we moved to Australia,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and I had and everything that comes with that, and there was just a lot of trauma there. I had very, very, as you said, limiting beliefs, and really what I understood it now as lack of self-belief. I mean, at all, I didn't believe I could do anything. I didn't believe I was worthy. I didn't believe I was enough. I was a people pleaser. I had so much side effects from the trauma that it shaped my life. It was who who I am. I was surviving.
Yes.
Even when I came to Australia, there was no danger, there was no all of that was removed. It's funny how still we just survive,
Yes.
um, getting by. So I was in my early 20s when I started seeking counseling.
Hmm.
And I hear this so often. And I was in the same place where um, in my country, we don't do counseling. We don't do health. We don't do mental health.
Hmm.
And I hear this so often because it's either in my family we don't do this, or in where I'm from we don't do this.
Right.
So going to getting help was a very big deal. It was a very, um, I didn't tell anyone. It was very just for me.
Hmm.
Um, and after 2 years, I realized how much my life has changed. I realized everything that I worked through, and I wasn't just getting by anymore. I was now on, a few steps up, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And coming from a belief that there's something wrong with seeking help, I was like, I want to do this for other people. This is amazing. So I went and got my qualifications, and I am now doing the same for others, what I needed so much for me back then, very long time ago.
Oh, wow. That is such a powerful story. So, when it comes to your own self-limiting beliefs, where did that come from? Did that come from, being from the in the war-torn um element, or like where did that come from? Because oftentimes, I know that for us, in our community, oftentimes we receive these negative images of ourselves on television. Being a Black woman, it's constant negativity when we are viewed by others, and so when you're constantly being given and kind of hammered that negative energy and that negative imagery of yourself, you start to kind of believe that, and then you have others that treat you as such. You kind of start to believe that. So where do you know the root of where your self-limiting beliefs came from?
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. Society, and I had so many, and it was, my parents did absolutely the best they could with what they had.
Right.
Um, but a lot of it came from my parents, and it wasn't that they didn't love me, it was just that they believed it themselves.
Right.
Everything that they put on me, they believed themselves, and they honestly um, did so to protect me. And I
Right.
remember one of the limiting beliefs, which is this is how influential everything that happens in our childhood is. Um, so when I started doing my degree, I was umming and ahhing, for counseling. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it?
Hmm.
And I took a very long time to decide whether to do this or not. And it was something that I desperately wanted to do. It was something, thinking back on it, kind of what I always wanted to do, but not really, that dream that you have, but it's kind of like being a
Yes.
singer, but you can't sing. And that was kind of me. And I was, and I was just thinking about it, just dwelling on it so much. And then I went back, I was like, what is going on with me? What's happening here? And I
Mm.
honestly had the belief that I couldn't handle the schoolwork, or I wasn't smart enough to do it. And I was
Right.
like, okay, wow, I don't. And I was always a bookworm. And
Yeah.
that's the funny thing. So I was like, wait a minute, I was the bookworm. I was the one that was literally, I wasn't sneaking in clothes into the house when I was living at home with mum and
Mm.
dad because I was buying so much. I was sneaking in books because my mum was like, why did you get so many books? And I was like, I think I can't do it. Okay. And so I went back and worked through it. And it was in primary school at the time, back in Yugoslavia. So it was just, this whole big thing made I was slow at reading. So I
Mm,
wasn't reading at the fast pace that everyone else was at. And the teacher kind of made a really, really big deal out of it.
mm,
And it was there was a lot of I feel like at the time there was a lot of shame that I felt, and I
right.
was stupid and those kind of beliefs.
Yes.
So when it then came to taking a chance on something like a degree and the possibility that I might fail or I might not get the highest GPA,
Yes.
that was just it was an I didn't want to do it because it could risk again me looking like the dumb person that I was. I don't know
Right.
how old I was, 7, 8, I have no idea. And again, that was because when the first grade that I received for my degree was a pass. So it was I just got by almost a fail. Um, I cried for 2 days.
Oh,
2 days. And I didn't even fail. I was so devastated because they were all right. They were all right. I am dumb. I don't know how to do this,
yeah.
and then it was just kind of that, and that's how limiting beliefs forms. And it's something, you know, in a throughout my childhood, that was a speck of time. It was a moment. But that moment influenced decisions that I made after that
Yes.
consistently until I
Yes.
dealt with it. And
Yes.
that's how it works.
Yes, and you are absolutely correct, and it's so funny because, despite the cultural differences from you there in Australia to even your upbringing in Yugoslavia to me being here in America, even despite the cultural differences, the fact that that type of trauma and those types of beliefs being poured into a child, it transcends no matter what culture, because that's where the root of most of our trauma and self-limiting beliefs come from, is something that somebody put in our heads as a child, and we carried this with us into adulthood, and it dictates everything else that we do. So I have a
Yes.
question. So now, like, kind of on that, we both know how much limiting beliefs keep people from, like, really showing up authentically and confidently and being the best version of themselves. So how do you coach your clients to navigate their own limiting beliefs?
Yeah, great question. The key to it, or where we start, is having that awareness that so everything, our life is shaped by decisions. You are in this moment, because of a series of decisions you made.
Yes.
And our lack of self-belief. So again, taking my example of doing further education was, if I believed that I could, and if I believed that I couldn't, my life would have been completely different.
Right.
Yeah, I would have been on completely different paths if I didn't do this. So if we believe we can do something, we're happy. We go into it. It's a decision we make easily. And if we believe we can't do something, then we shy away from it. So creating that awareness that sometimes the decisions that we make or the excuses that we have are just surface based,
Yes.
and they are excuses.
Yes.
And just creating the awareness that it doesn't matter at this point. Let's just not go what's going on inside. Let's just agree that there is something going on inside,
Right.
and that's where we start. So we start creating that awareness and back to the bringing yourself back to the present moment, because that's when you can see what's going on inside. So creating awareness of your body, what it is that you're feeling, because if a decision was just surface based, like I don't have time, you wouldn't have the racing heart, you wouldn't have the sweaty palms, or
Right.
feel fear. You just
Yes.
wouldn't have time, and that's okay.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
those reactions are telling you something, that there is more at play than just the surface based stuff.
Yes, yes, and I agree completely, because when I'm working with um people who want to further their journey with yoga, and they're like, I don't know where to start, but I know that I've got some things going on. We don't just deal with yoga, because by the time you're hurting and you're stiff and you're aching, that's just the symptom of something deeper. And so oftentimes we wind up kind of digging deeper and kind of exploring further back. But one of the things that I find that's so important, because it was very important for me when I had to begin to deal with my own self-limiting beliefs, was to take accountability for my decisions, because yes, it is based off of something that happened way back when. However, there does become a certain point where you do have to say, okay, I probably played a little role in that. And sometimes it's very difficult for people to take on that piece of accountability for their own actions, and for things that they may have allowed. Because I heard you when you said earlier that you're a former people pleaser, and so am I. And I, so I hear you loud and clear. And so I remember oftentimes I would come across as, and I would play myself as a victim, because I didn't understand why people were doing this and why people were doing that. And
Mm,
it took so long for me to really begin to address my own stuff and say, well, no, they did it because I allowed them to do it. I
yes,
allowed it
yes.
because I was trying to please them instead of honoring myself and honoring how I feel. And so when you said people they have to be aware of how they're feeling and what they're feeling, that I believe that that is so important and so key to a person addressing those self-limiting beliefs. Would you agree?
Yes, 100%. And I love what you said there, because sometimes it is so scary to think about um, our own responsibility, or just facing something on that at the moment.
Right.
Because when we're people pleasing, and it's certainly for me, and it's certainly the clients that I work with, is this I will lose something if I don't please
Yes.
you. And it's
Yes.
usually love, and it comes in different forms like respect, or I don't want to disappoint people, but you don't want to
Yes.
disappoint them because you're afraid of losing their love.
Yes.
Um, and then having that realization, it's so scary, but at the same time, it's so powerful and liberating, because now you
Yes.
understand that you're not at the mercy of other people. Because
Yes.
at 5 minutes ago, you were. Because
Yep.
if someone, even if you people please, some people are very hard to please.
Yes.
So, and you did everything for them and they're still not happy, that, you can't possibly be happy, because you believe that the only way to get love for you is to people love, for you to do everything for them.
Yes.
So, and when you take away that, and you're like, wait a minute, I can be loved and I can express love without breaking my back, without running around and trying to do
Right.
everything for everyone. And I am worthy just
Yes.
as I am. I may not feel it now, but just the idea that I could be, wow,
Yes.
that's big.
Yes, it is. It's so powerful. So, what tips would you like to share with the audience on how to begin overcoming those limiting beliefs about themselves if they're not currently working with somebody, or like just what's a good starting point for someone to say, okay, you know what? There has to be more to life than what I'm living now. I am not happy. I don't feel that inner joy. So, like, there's something going on. So, where would you tell them to start to do that work?
Yes. All right. So if you have multiple things going on, I would recommend picking one. It's easier for our brain to process, it's easier for us to focus on, and we don't feel so overwhelmed. And so we
Yes.
start creating that awareness. Now, that could be through multiple ways. One of the ways that I really love to recommend, and especially people who've been through trauma, is yoga. It's that syncing of breath with the movement that creates awareness, which is, as I said before, such a big deal, because then we know
Yes.
where to pivot.
Yes.
So creating that awareness, and it could simply be, as I said, doing yoga, or you could be while washing dishes and just being in that moment, being present, feeling the water, feeling the soap, feeling the
Hmm.
sponge, or whatever it is you're doing. So just creating pockets of concentration, of being in the present moment and really being present as much as possible, whatever it is that you're doing. Of course, another way to do that is simply through meditation.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And journaling is another great way. So if you don't know where to start, just start writing. Just start writing. And if you are overwhelmed, there's so much to write about. So start writing anything and see what comes up. The most important thing with doing all of these is whatever comes up, there is no judgment. It's not about who caused it, why they caused it, why did you do that? You are just simply the observer, and it's kind of like you are standing on a platform, and you're watching
Yes.
all these trains go by, and you don't want to get on the train. You're simply watching everyone else do their thing, and you're just standing there, calmly watching. So this is where I guess the golden nugget is, creating that awareness. And then once we create that awareness, thinking about what it is that you want to change and educating yourself on that topic. A lot of people have I guess unhealthy beliefs of what a relationship is.
Yes.
And so creating awareness of what part you play in the relationship, what part your triggers play in the relationship, what part your
Right.
trauma and your past life play in the relationship,
Mm.
and then educating yourself, okay, so what does a healthy relationship look like? What does communication look like? Because what we know, certainly what I knew as a relationship, is what was passed down from generation to generation. And we weren't a family of academics, so whatever was passed down wasn't necessarily the best way to do
Right.
it now. And it's served people back then and in different circumstances,
Mm.
but we are all in a different circumstance than our parents were, than our grandparents were.
Right.
And so we can do so much more with our life. We can build so much more. We just need the tools, and the tools are available, especially in today's day and age with technology and brilliant podcasts like these. There's tools everywhere. We just kind of have to search a little bit to find them.
Yes. Oh my God, that was so awesome. I love how you talk about just being in the moment and being an observer, because that is one of the things that I talk about when I am doing my meditations with my clients. I'm like, just don't, you feel that feeling. You can feel that tingle in your ear. You can feel that your arm's itching. Don't interact with it. You're going to have
Mm,
intrusive thoughts when you are in meditation. I get them all the time, and I've been meditating for years. I get them, but you just acknowledge that it's there and just let it keep going. Just let it move on, and you will learn how to be in the moment, because being in the moment, it changes so many things. It really shifts your perspective when you're able to be in the moment. It kind of gives our nervous systems just kind of a break for a minute when you're actually in
yes,
the moment, instead of you're here physically, but your mind is over here and over there and over there. And it's like kind of all over the
yes.
place. That's the kind of stuff that builds anxiety. This was so much fun. Before we go, I want to play a game called This or That. Are you ready?
Okay,
All right,
ready.
I'm going to ask you 8 questions, and you
Mm-hmm.
just tell me this or that. All right. All right. So number one is coffee or tea,
Ooh, tea,
indoors or outdoors,
outdoors,
staycation or vacation.
vacation.
I think we all want vacation after these past 2 years. Running,
Absolutely.
running or yoga,
Yoga,
cats or dogs,
dogs,
morning or night,
night,
test the waters or dive in the deep end,
dive in the deep end.
art museum or history museum.
History.
Nice, nice. All right. So before we go, share with the audience how they can reach out to you if they would like to connect with you. And do you have any special courses, workshops, events, or anything that are coming up that you would like to share with us?
Yes. So I have, so my social medias, I use Vanja Beric. So if you just go on my website, www.vanjaberic.com. That's VANJABERIC. That will take you everywhere you need to go. And I do have a course coming up, and it's just doing exactly what we just talked about. So building that self-belief, building your worthiness, your enoughness, working through the past, working through the pain, and just creating the more of those present moments as as much as we possibly could. So it's a course obviously facilitated by me, and I'm in there live, and it's going to be amazing, transformational, and I'm so excited for people to for us to start doing it, because it's really going to be a lot of community and a lot of connection there.
So when is that course happening?
So it's going to be happening in sort of end of August, mid-August. We still haven't quite decided on the date, but you can save the link, just jump on our website and register, and we'll keep you updated. And I do a lot of training on a website as well, in terms of just a lot of free training out there. So there's a lot for you to pick and choose from if you want to get started right now.
Oh, that is so awesome, Vanja. Thank you so much for being here on the Melanin Wellness Podcast. You were an awesome guest. This was an amazing talk. I really, truly enjoyed it. And I know that my audience is going to enjoy it too. Guys, all of the socials for Vanja will be in the description box underneath this episode. So you will be able to click the link and connect with her and contact her if you want to work with her. Guys, I thank you so much for tuning in to this next episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. I love you for listening. Mwah. Until next time, take care, everyone, and live well. Bye-bye.